right off the bat, this right here has not been a good month for the, how do I say it? I'm going to just put the word up here because YouTube's got this funny thing about that yellow dollar sign. Very, very funny thing. But it hasn't been a good month. It hasn't exactly been a good month for these people. And of course, the month has only got about 7 days left at the time this video comes out. Of course, when the month is over with, it makes you kind of wonder exactly how these people are going to react. I don't know if July has got anything outside the 4th of July coming up. So it sounds like a bit of a ramble early on. But I'm just simply saying that the Pride community is not exactly got a good month. Bud Light, of course, they continue to lose money. Target's losing money. Kohl's is losing money. All this whole woke pandering push has forced Starbucks to give up wokeness for a bit. Also, at the same time, you've got all these people just finally speaking out and coming back up, and they're popping up, and they're actually saying something, and they're actually voicing their opinions, and they're telling these people to go away because obviously the boycotts are working. And then I came across this video here the other day from a guy who I still listen to from time to time. Here's a little snippet.
It is misdirection on the dollar. It is misdirection on the war, on really everything that actually matters. Okay? That's really what the pride flag thing is about, too. It's not really in support of gay pride. It's really not. It's really not. You wouldn't be forcing this. I went over to London. There wasn't a government building without the gay pride flag. Not one.
So, yes, we're going to be talking about this little Christian nationalism phrase because they're probably going to be using this instead of the normal racist, misogynistic, xenophobic, or how do I say this, Nazi. Everybody I literally disagree with is Hitler. They're going to find a brand new buzzword or buzz phrase. So go ahead and strap in, put your seatbelt on, because this is the phrase that they're going to be using. And of course, we got to preview this because obviously this is coming in 2024. I'm pretty sure you guys remember back in, I think it was 2016. There was this guy on the rise, a guy running for president. His name was Donald Trump. He eventually got elected, all that type of stuff there. However, what a lot of people don't remember is that the 2016 Democratic platform was, pretty well contentious. If you of the mindset that maybe Bernie Sanders was screwed out of the nomination in 2016. By the way, I thought Bernie Sanders' ascent was absolutely hilarious, given how incompetent the Democratic Party has been over the years, especially given the fact that when Obama was in office, they were sliding further and further and further to the left. However, the thing that people oftentimes love to mention is that they love to say that the Trump wing of the Republican Party is super right-wing, even though the Overton window on Trump, meaning the Overton window on politics as far as the conservative side of the aisle, was actually a little bit more moderate, given the fact that he did not run on a platform of what was it, ban abortion, but definitely end Roe v. Wade, basically meaning that it would go back to the states. Even Ruth Bader Ginsburg thought that the Roe v. Wade original ruling on this was actually wrong and thought the exact same thing, that it should have stayed with the states. Also, given the fact that Trump was also running against brand new wars, did not get us in any more wars, and also at the same time basically didn't touch the whole gay rights issue, practically just saying, I don't think it's really that big of a deal, you probably would think to yourself, maybe this guy right here was not far right. But then out of the middle of nowhere, because the man in 2016 got an extremely large amount of the evangelical vote, all of a sudden the mainstream media began to start pointing their finger at Christians, started pointing their finger at anybody and everybody that just simply disagree with the narrative. Of course, when I opened this video, I talked about Bernie Sanders and the Democratic Party's platform. What eventually happened was that Bernie Sanders forced the Democratic Party to go much, much further to the left. The next thing you know, Hillary Clinton starts pandering to left-wingers, starts pandering to socialists. And what do you think happens? A lot of these socialists, of course, thought for themselves, look, she's not one of us. She's really just an elitist. She takes money from these nations that, quite frankly, execute gays and all that stuff there. So they figured, we're going to stay home. Some of them, of course, also voted for Jill Stein. Now, what does this have to do with Christian nationalism and what exactly is about to, let's just say, what's exactly about to come this election cycle in 2024? Well, it has a lot to do with it. You see, The thing you have to understand is that in the game of politics, and by the way, I'm going to be doing a lot less political videos going forward, especially over the next year or so, especially given the fact we have a primary coming up. And I don't want to be too divisive. Not to mention there are also channels out there that do this job better than me when it comes to pure politics. Some of the suggestions I can give you guys are Real American, Red Eagle. Of course, there's also Red Lion, Buckeye State. A lot of actual good political channels. Also good political commentators as well. And the thing is this right here. You have to be ready for exactly the type of stuff that the mainstream media is going to hit you with. You see, back in 2016, they needed the far-left radicals to get them over. They needed the far-left types to go out there and actually physically vote for what was crowned to be the chosen one, Hillary Clinton. This right here is after the anointed one was leaving office. Now, Razorfist did a lot of videos on this. One of them, of course, was how Obama obliterated Hillary, the DNC's Bernie Sanders' socialism ascent to the DNC, all that type of stuff there, and the blatant communism that we're dealing with, and of course the administration that is really and truly quite weak. But then I came across another video. From the guy who you saw in the thumbnail, Glenn Beck. And let me roll some of this for you guys, and then we'll come back on the other side.
This Trump thing is not about Donald Trump, certainly not about the law. It is about one of two things when it comes to him. Either ensuring he's the candidate, again, I don't know on the legal side yet, ensuring he's the candidate by stirring it all up, or putting him in jail. But let's go with ensuring that Trump is the candidate. I don't know if you've seen this, but over the weekend, I think somebody in Congress started talking about, are you a Romney Republican or a Trump Republican? Now, notice they didn't say a Ron DeSantis Republican, okay? It's a Romney Republican. This is coming from the GOP. I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. Are you a Romney Republican? Meaning, I think, a reasonable Republican, one that will compromise, one that will work to get things done. Or are you a crazy person? First of all, let's just go on this. That's a false choice. Okay? Romney is that's the other side? Why aren't you saying a DeSantis Republican? And I'm not a DeSantis, Trump, or Romney Republican. I'm a constitutional voter. What this is about enraging enough Americans. Period. Enraging you. First of all, really? You want to play this game about putting people in jail? You're going to put him in jail for documents that he had, and you're still telling us there's nothing to do with your son? Really? Outrageous. Injustice. Inequality. You name it. Enraging. They need you to be enraged. That's honestly why everything that is going on, that's why they keep poking and poking and poking and poking at you. There is no other choice. It is their way or you're out. Life. And I've been to all the secret meetings with the GOP. I've never heard Christian nationalism, but I want you to know it's real. It's real. And they are creating it just as they did the last time this happened.
So why is the GOP bringing up Christian nationalism? Why is the GOP mentioning this? You see, that's the main thing that I took out of that. And by the way, I still listen to Glenn from time to time, even though he stayed home in 2016. But he still, for the most part, says some things that I think people, quite frankly, need to look into. Glenn has also got this habit of being correct. He's also got this habit of being almost 100% spot on. I mean, sometimes a little bit too spot on. But then again, though, He also has this habit of also being about 2 or 3 years before ahead of his time when it actually occurs. Like, for example, if Glenn Beck says an economic crash is coming this year, chances are it probably won't come this year, but it will probably come like a year or two later, and it'll happen exactly the way he said it was going to occur. Which, by the way, we're kind of in the midst of what could eventually be an economic crash. Inflation is still high. The price of gas is through the roof. The price of food, of course, is still high. And, of course, many people, these jobs they claim that they're making are actually just working 12 hours a week, and they're just getting paid $15 an hour, but yet they have to go get a second job to supplant that. So, obviously, the jobs numbers are manipulated. Typically, the economy decides elections. However, there is always one way to try to paint one side of the aisle as, let's just say, fascist or Nazis. This is typically the phrase that left-wingers love to use when it comes to anybody who is right of left center. You're a Nazi. You're a fascist. You're a Christian nationalist. Anytime somebody talks about nationalism, they immediately assert it with Weimar Germany, or they assert it with Nazi Germany. That is what they actually do, which is very, very funny because in this very, very next clip, Glenn, if he didn't say it before, which he actually says it in this episode, which I'll leave the full episode in the description box for you, he actually talked about it for a good 6 minutes. I'm just giving you guys a snippet, and I'm going to kind of fill in the rest of it and kind of give you guys a broader explanation and exactly how it is that they intend on hitting anybody right of left center in 2024. I got to ask a question, and I mean this. Ever since World War II ended, and really quick, I think that comparing dictators is futile. Hitler was obviously one of the most evil men in history. Stalin was one of the most evil men in history. Mao was one of the most evil men in history. You have to kind of say it kind of funny because for whatever reason, YouTube's got this thing about him. Pol Pot was bad. Saddam Hussein was bad. There's that Ugandan guy who was actually a cannibal. All you got to do is look back to your early history of the world, look back to your Bible. You see Ramses at the time of the Exodus. You see Sennacherib. You see the king of Tyre, who seemed real normal, and then all of a sudden went into this whole shift of becoming a bloodthirsty dictator. And then next thing you know, you see someone like, say, Antiochus IV or Antiochus Epiphanes at the time of the Maccabean revolt in Israel. This is back during the time when Greece actually was in control of that land. Fact of the matter is that history is full of dictators, and every time you turn around, what did the left do? Anyone I disagree with is literally Hitler. That's what they do. However, you got to wonder if at some point in time, if they decide to, I don't know, maybe drop the whole Hitler thing because the shtick has gotten so boring and gotten so old as well as racist, which, by the way, if you ever call somebody racist, it seems to me like the term has actually lost its effect. So what's the next best thing? Christian nationalist. Look, I opened this video up basically saying that Pride Month had not gone well for the Pride community. Why has it not gone well? Well, let's take a look at it really quick. Bud Light, they chose to pander to a certain community, and now they're feeling the effects. Target chose to pander to a community, now they're feeling the effects. Chick-fil-A, obviously it was exposed that they had a DEI statement, and they're starting to actually feel a little bit of pain. Not as much so. Starbucks, one of the more progressive companies out there, what happened to them? They took down their Pride decorations, but then turned right back around and still sold Pride paraphernalia using, grifting off of the wokes they have working at their store. Truth be told is right now we're in a period where the truth comes out. People are getting exposed, and quite frankly, these companies, these woke corporations are starting to lose a lot of money. This morning I went down the road to grab some breakfast. I figured I would get up instead of actually fixing my own breakfast. I'd actually buy something to eat. A place called Bojangles, of course. We have those in North Carolina, South Carolina, there's even a couple in Virginia. And I went down the road and I got something. And girls in there wearing a Pride pin, whatnot. I'm not saying I'll never eat at the establishment or anything. Again, I'm just saying that, I noticed that it seems to me like the one person who's wearing it seems to be wearing it at a time where it's all being boycotted. It's all being kicked to the side. People are getting tired of it, almost to the point where now it's numb, where people just think you're crazy if you wear the pin. I've already voiced my opinion on this. I really and truly don't care what you do behind closed doors as long as you are not trying to shove it in my face or anyone else's face or any kids or anything. I really and truly do not care what it is that you do. But of course, the wokeness stuff has gone completely out of control. Now, think about something really quick. Glenn Beck also in that episode talked about what happened with the LA Dodgers. Now, here's the thing about that LA Dodgers thing, okay? Here's the thing about that. The Dodgers, of course, I'm pretty sure you guys know the story by now. They told the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence that there wasn't going to be a Pride Night, and quite frankly, they weren't going to be invited. The Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, they said something about this, and then the Dodgers, of course, decided to reverse course on this. Then they turned right back after that there, and they did exactly what I said was going to happen. They pissed off the vast majority of their fan base, which happens to be Hispanics, Catholics. So then next thing you know, they go out there to protest while these people are getting an award. They basically have an empty crowd. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, an empty crowd doesn't really mean anything. Of course, this was before the game or whatnot, but still at the same time, though, people, when they go to the ballpark, a lot of times they go early to watch batting practice, get autographs, see the players, try to get up close views, but they also buy a lot of merchandise. Give it a couple of weeks and you'll see that entire stock go down. You'll see the money itself just completely just dry on up. But here's the point that I want to make about this before we transition into the ultimate point of this, because sometimes this can actually be a distraction, because when you're distracted by one enemy, another enemy could come in. And here's the deal. You see, the thing you have to understand is that if you are suddenly against this type of pride stuff, next thing you know, what's going to happen is that you suddenly become a Christian nationalist. I think it would be absolutely hilarious if you listen, if you see a video, the news media report on a story, another boycott, and all of a sudden the person labels the person they're interviewing as a Christian nationalist, and the person responds with, "I'm an atheist," or I'm a Buddhist, or I'm Hindu, or whatnot, or I'm an agnostic. But yet you just got labeled as a Christian nationalist. What I'm saying to you is that the term Christian nationalist is going to be coming up very soon. And I think it's not just going to come up here in 2024, but I think it's probably going to be something that sticks. Because I came across this here the other day.
Visitors get their first taste of Islamic prayers, it's come to Ahmed's attention that Isaac isn't dressed properly for the occasion.
Pull your socks up a bit more. In prayer, he had his socks under his knees and he was wearing shorts, so his knees were showing. And in Islam, you need to have from your belly button to your knees covered to be praying, and his knees were showing. So I asked him if he can pull his socks up to cover it up.
Quietly, will you stand up?
Sometimes in trying to educate others in our values, we may come across as rude or abrupt. And that is a concern I have with some of our students. And that is something which they have to learn how not to do.
I have never prayed before. I've never even thought about it, but I've meditated before. And it was really nice just sort of being in the room with them and having that unity of everyone doing something together at the same time and doing the same thing. And it felt really together.
So they're teaching kids in school how Muslims do their prayers. Now, really quick, I've already stated this on multiple occasions. I have no issues with anybody of any faith. I don't. And I'm not saying that that's what's happening here, but one might automatically think this right here could be occurring. By the way, I've made several videos on the whole protest at the schools and whatnot. I've done several videos on this, and you've seen that the Muslims have been very, very much involved in trying to put a stop to the woke stuff. I've never seen where Muslims have ever tried to interject their way of life into mine or anyone else's in school or whatnot, but still at the same time, though, we're oftentimes forgetting that there may be another battle. I mean, right now you've got influencers out there like Sneeko, and by the way, I ain't got any issue with Sneeko. I actually think Sneeko's okay. Most of the things that he says, it's just this recent Islam grift, of course, fresh and fit. Those guys, they're all taking it with Islam. And then you look at channels like, say, What Do You Mean? And all these other religious channels that, quite frankly, debunk a lot of the crap that these people say, showing they really and truly don't know anything about that way of life. It makes you wonder if there's not going to be a grift of this way coming into the school system next. It seems to me like you fight one extremely tyrannical leader and then another one just pops up, or one tyrannical movement and another one pops up. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I know a lot of people who subscribe to Islam, they've never ever wanted to actually bring this up. But I'm just saying, with this massive internet grift that you've got on and seeing that there, it makes you wonder if one movement goes away, another one just may reappear.
They have to silence people and get you to be enraged. Because the one thing I heard over and over, which surprised me, Christian nationalism. I keep hearing Christian national. I've never heard Christian national. Never in my whole life. And I've been to all the secret meetings with the GOP. I've never heard Christian nationalism, but I want you to know it's real. It's real. And they are creating it just as they did the last time this happened. But they waited until it was over. I don't think they saw the opportunity at the beginning. This time, they see the opportunity. What happened after World War II? Hitler suddenly became a Christian. Nazism was Christian nationalists. Socialism was nowhere to be found. It was a Christian nationalist movement. No, it was a socialist nationalist movement. That's what that was. Stalin gets away scot-free, killing more people than Hitler. Not to diminish Hitler in any way. Stalin kills more people. Mao kills many more people than Stalin killed. Not to diminish Stalin's killing. And yet the one we always talk about is Hitler. Why? Because that's the one they could make into a Christian nationalist, I'm convinced. They have to explain communism and socialism and why it always leads to deaths. If they can get you to talk about this one, they can get you to talk about Christian nationalism. And let me be very, 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 very clear. Hitler was not a Christian. But this was, in some ways, a religious movement, just like what we're seeing in America is a religious movement. There are new gods being introduced, okay? And you must bow down to those gods.
You're going to hear me say this in the next segment, but there's no point in comparing dictators, but it's true. I find it very weird how it was that after World War II, we weren't talking about Stalin enough, we weren't talking about Mao, and eventually this would continue on. We're not talking about other people out there out history. By the way, this is not an endorsement of anyone or anything. I think the biggest reason why they do this with Hitler is because Hitler's looked a little bit more cultish as far as an actual national movement. I mean, we'll be talking more about that in the future, but of course, a lot of people forget, and there's one more thing people need to understand. And by the way, if you look at the actual total dead from the Soviet Union after the revolution, after Lenin died, the purges, the famine, everything, it's pretty hard if you count all the deaths going into World War II. I mean, post World War II, or right there at the very, very end of World War II in the Soviet Union, it was roughly 20 million. Oftentimes we attribute the Holocaust, and I'm kind of working on something right here that could get me in trouble with the YouTube gods. I'm trying to be let's put it this way, I'm not trying to be as blunt as normal, but when you factor in the deaths from that, and of course you factor in the other deaths of political prisoners, the killing of gypsies, undesirables, there was a lot of people who got killed. In World War II itself, it was estimated to be right around 50 million were dead. People always look at Hitler as the main star of that, but they oftentimes forget to mention that when Hitler decided to do his campaign across Europe, Stalin decided he wanted to try to invade Finland, and of course he was actually on Hitler's side at the very beginning of the conflict. Something else, too, I hear a lot about. When people talk about Russia saying that they won World War II, my response to them is, well, how? That, by the way, was not meant to diminish the sacrifice of those who died in Russia trying to fight the Nazis. The reason why I'm asking how is because we always keep hearing that Russia won World War II. Not as simple as you think. Right there at the end of the war, while Russia was beginning to move in on Japan, we decided to drop 2 bombs. Earlier in the war, we had given Russia we had done a Lend-Lease agreement so that way Russia could get material. Russia was actually taking a lot of losses, especially during and after Barbarossa. Stalingrad, for the most part, even though they won it, was extremely costly for them, and in a lot of ways more costly for them than it was for Adolf Hitler. Of course, we'll be doing stuff on Short Time of Prepping, Gear Issue 33, we start looking at military history and stuff, and you'll actually see that. Also, not to mention the fact that while the Battle of Kursk was going on, we were hitting the Mediterranean at that point in time, not North Africa, but actually Italy itself, which a lot of historians have said that it wouldn't have mattered at Kursk, but it probably would have bought the Nazis some time. Look, it's futile comparing dictators. Let's just go ahead and be honest. But at the same time, though, if we have to talk about Stalin, then we have to talk about communism and how bad it can get and how bad it really and truly is. For whatever reason, the media does not want to do that, and that's part of the reason why we've got all this nonsense that we have today with all these left-wingers pushing all this crazy progressive ideology on us, which is just another sugar-coated word for extreme Marxism. They keep saying cultural Marxism, but in reality, this right here is a different form of Marxism. I got to say this. I got to say this really quick before we move on. In communist Russia, you couldn't do the crap that you're doing today. Seriously. You couldn't do the whole transist movement. You couldn't do any of that, okay? You couldn't be gay or anything like that in communist Russia. They would execute you. Same thing in Nazi Germany. They would execute you. Fact of the matter is that all these ideologies, when you actually boil it down, is actually really truly the same. Not to mention the fact that anytime somebody brings up Hitler, they always forget to mention that the key word in his movement was National Socialist movement, which of course is what Hitler was, a socialist. You see, even after we put down the pride thing, what I'm telling you is this right here. Another thing is going to be coming. We're living in extremely perilous times. We're living in extremely strange times. Something else is going to be popping back up. Something else is coming. It's just the way that it is. There's always going to be a brand new enemy, and things are going to accelerate at an extremely ridiculous rate. I just figured I would throw this out here to kind of give you guys a preview of what to expect in the next year, because I have a feeling that 2024, given the fact that the Democratic Party has still got the same person in office right now looking to run for re-election. They've shut down debates. You have a DNC that's going to be held in Chicago with an extremely woke mayor, and of course they're running on wokeness, which, by the way, everybody's tired of it. You've got people being imported that are imported to places like Chicago and New York, people who came across the border, people that Biden let in. And next thing you know, you have all this chaos that's about to happen. I already talked about this before. I have a feeling that 2024 is probably going to be a pretty eventful year. So make sure you guys stick around for the fireworks and go ahead and expect the smoke show that they're going to be throwing at you, because obviously the smoke is coming. And that is going to be all I'm going to say for this video here. Guys, there's going to be another video out tomorrow that is going to be on the situation with what happened at the Bed Bath & Beyond. That video will be the second video of the day. This video will be out early in the afternoon, and then the second video will be out at 6. And there'll be one video coming out on Saturday. As far as multiple videos this weekend, I'm not sure just yet. This weekend is going to be pretty busy as far as putting things in the office back together. Of course, I've been working on that all week. I think I've said it in every video. The other side of the place looks a lot worse than this one right here. But either way, though, make sure you guys stick around, because more content is coming. And of course, there's going to be the transition into video essays, but not every video is going to be a video essay anytime soon. That right there being most of the stuff in the cutaway and the voiceover and all that stuff there. Guys, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe. If you think I've earned your subscription, please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the notifications bell. I'd love you guys to stick around. This way, you guys are notified when my videos come out. Also, to go on top of that, make sure you guys leave a comment in the comment section. I would love to get you guys' thoughts on this, and I'll see you guys later.